Hello everyone, and welcome to stream number 3 in this series. I hope you're all doing well. I've brought myself a nice cup of tea, and today we're going to continue working on our second brain app. But before we get into it, maybe a quick recap of what we did last time. So last time we looked into building more of the UI. I added a screen for viewing our articles, and I made a couple of mistakes, and some people were nice enough to point them out. So maybe we can look at fixing them. So that's the first thing that I think we should do today. And yeah, so maybe if you're on the stream, say hello, say who you are, say where you're from. And also, am I the only person drinking tea at 8 o'clock? Let me know. What's your favorite beverage? Also, let's see, I think the volume on this mixer is pretty loud. So let me tune this down a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, this might be better. All right. Cool. Oh, and let me double check, because nobody is saying hello. Let me double check if the chat is on. Okay, so say hello if you're here. Say hello if you can hear me. All right, so firstly, let me turn on my phone, and then we'll take another look at this application so that you know what we're looking at and what we're building. So this is a second brain application. The goal is to have an application that I can use to collect all sorts of articles and then ideally read them. Or if I can't find the time to read them, get some AI assistance here, right? So for example, let's look at one of those articles that I've saved here. So how about this one? So this is an interesting article that Rudrang wrote about Cursor and how he has been setting this up to help him be more efficient at coding in Xcode, or maybe without Xcode, right? And this already has a summary here, but I could take more notes. This one probably also has a summary. Maybe we can just go and add another article. So let's see. I think Matt Messicott has some really nice articles about Swift concurrency. So yeah, let's take this one here. Problematic Swift concurrency patterns. So if I wanted to read this article, I could either do it here, or because I'm on the stream with you guys now, so I don't have time to read this article, so let me save it and add it to my application here so I can take some notes. For example, I could say, this is really useful, I hope. And then add it to the app, and it should show up in the app. And sure enough, here it is, problematic Swift concurrency patterns. And I can go in and, it is a simplified version of the HTML. And now let's see how this summary feature works. So here's my note that I took earlier, but how about I get a summary written by an AI? So I tap on the magic wand button, and boom, there you go, it gives me a summary. So pretty detailed summary. Probably I should work on the prompt to make it more concise. So that is definitely something we should be looking into, but we're still here. All right, so this is what we're going to build over the course of the next couple of episodes. So in the past episode, we built part of the UI, and today I want to build something to connect it to, a data storage. And first we're going to implement something to store data in memory, and later on we're going to connect it to Firestore. All right, so let's see who's on the stream. Hey Lars. All right, only the first half hour, so I'll try to make it count. No drinks, no snacks, sitting in the car waiting. Well, hopefully, this stream will, make the wait all the while worth. And Mikaela is there. Hey, Mikaela, thanks for joining. So let's get this thing started. So first of all, last time I did something that was not ideal. So let's fix that first. So here, as you can see on the screen, we're displaying lots of dates, and those dates are the current date because I'm fetching data from memory. Oh, and wait, you can't see what I'm looking at. See? There we go. All right, so I'm in my IDE, and here is my preview, and here is the problematic code that I want to look at. So I've got this created@string method here, which creates this date in a readable way. And if we look at this, what I do is I set up this date formatter, I set the date style to medium, and here is the problematic part. I set it to a very fixed locale, and that is obviously not a great idea because this will only work for people who happen to like the German date format. So that is not a good idea. And Philmaniac 1984 said there is an easier way to do this. So let's look at his suggestion. So on the last recording, he suggested to use the formatted method. So if you have a date like this one, you can call the formatted function like this, and there you go. Now we have the date and the time formatted in the locale. So you can see that this is still using German date format and time format as well. And we can look at the documentation, and it says convert self to its textual representation that contains both the date and time parts. The except format depends on the user's preferences. Right, so if I went into the settings, I could control how that looked like. And that is all great and good, but there is one problem. I don't want to display the time. So let's see if I can specify that I only want to see the date. And here we can specify the format style for the date and for the time. So let's see what we can do. So for the date, I think abbreviated might be good. Let's try that. And then for the time, I want to hide the time. So omitted is correct. Okay, so this looks good. 5 Nov 2024. That's okay. But how about numeric? Yeah, so this is a lot better. This is a lot more along the lines of what I like. So let's keep it at that. All right, so Philmaniac 1984, thanks for bringing this up. And folks, if you see me doing anything that you think I should be doing better or differently, feel free to let me know. And then in the next, either tell me on the chat or post it in the comments, and then either I'll fix it right away or in the next stream. Okay, so, and then the other thing was, you might remember that we were using this navigation link here. So we have this layout here where there is this chevron, which is not in the default position because the default position would be somewhere in the middle right here. And I wanted to display it up there. And Mikaela and I had a discussion about whether that's a good idea or not. I think she's got a good point there using the default position, but I wanted to replicate the look and feel of the email of the default mail app. That was why I put it there, and I think it was very interesting to see how you can achieve that. So here's this navigationLink view modifier that we used. And if the height chevron parameter is true, we will go into this branch here and put the navigationLink into an overlay and put the opacity to 0. So let's go back and pin this so we can see what's going on. So let me navigate to the link. Okay, so if I remove the opacity, then we should be seeing both the chevrons, both the chevron I implemented and then the one that is the default one. So that is as expected. So that's great. And here's the problem. So if height chevron is true, is false, then we go into this branch and this didn't seem to work. So let's put this to false. And then now we should still be seeing that other chevron, right? So, and the problem here is that I forgot to wrap it into a navigation link like this. Oh, wow. Yeah, so I've got, wow, this is not helpful. I've got the Copilot for Xcode installed. It's sometimes helpful, sometimes it gets into the way. So let's see how this goes, if it's useful or not. Okay. And now height chevron is false, and we can see the chevron here. If we go back, put it to true, and then it should disappear. There you go. All right. So, and I think it was Clemens who pointed out why this didn't work. Cool. Great. So we fixed those two problems, which is great. So now let's look into how we can implement a in-memory store for our to-do items. So at the moment, what we have is we have our list view here. We've got the artifact mock lists, and you might remember that we are using this mockable protocol to get all the data. So this is all static. And let's see if we can implement something that makes this real world-ish, right? So because we want to fetch the data from a database. So to not have to type everything myself, what I did is I prepared a protocol. So let's go into the model folder here and then new artifact store from clipboard. Here we go. So here's my protocol. We probably want to import foundation. So this artifact store can hold our artifacts, and then we have a number of methods for adding, removing, updating, and modifying a couple of those parameters on the respective artifact. So artifacts are essentially the articles that we want to store. They're called artifacts because in the future I might decide to store other stuff as well. Okay, so let's build a in-memory representation of this. So I'm going to use the observable macro to do this. So we're using the new observable state management, I guess. And let's see how this goes. So I need a class, and let's call this in-memory artifact store. And it needs to conform to this protocol, artifact store, there we go. And now it's not complete, obviously, so let's add all those stubs. Also, let's not forget to add the add observable macro, and I should probably also import this up here. Import observation. Great. And then we can get rid of this for a moment. Okay. Right, so this should be empty for now. And now this error message goes away. That is good. And for adding an artifact, we will basically just append it, right? So artifacts.append. Thanks to GitHub Copilot, I didn't have to type a lot. Let's also implement removing artifacts. And let's see. Yeah, this looks good. So we're going to remove everything where the ID of the artifact that we want to remove matches the ID of the artifact that we're iterating over in this closure here. And then for updating an artifact, we need to iterate over all the artifacts. And let's see. So first, maybe we should find the artifact that we want to modify, right? So, nice. All right. So, we'll get an index by using the first index function. So this again takes a where closure, and this uses the same approach as up here. We want to find the first artifact where the IDs match. And then if we get an index, so if it's in there, then we will just replace it here. Okay. So, and then for toggling the read and flagged status, what we want to do is we will first, no, that's not what we're going to do. So we could technically use the same approach for finding the same, the correct artifact that we want to update. But instead of doing this, we will just make a modifiable copy of the artifact, and then we'll use the update method to update it, right? So I'm going to say var updated artifact equals artifact. So now we can modify it. And you might be wondering why, right? So I could say artifact dot is red dot toggle, but the compiler tells me I cannot mutate this because it's immutable, because it's a let constant. So this is passed in as a constant. I can't modify it. So let's first create this update artifact, and then we will toggle the isRed attribute, and then we will update the artifact, right? So I'm not sure. So should I keep using GitHub Copilot for this? Type 1 if you want me to keep doing this, or type 2 if I should stop using it and type everything myself. I'm in two minds. So 1 for continue and 2 for stopping. Okay, and here we can basically just make a copy of that, move it down here, and then instead of using the isRed, we will is start.toggle, and we should probably rename this. So let's do a refactoring, rename is flagged. Okay. So yeah, Mikaela asks, how do you like Copilot in Xcode? Well, I mean, it's not bad. It does a lot of things that are useful, right? So I mean, if all the code that I wanted to type here, it did perfectly, which, to be honest, is probably because I've did this before, 1, and 2, because I am one of the people who wrote a lot of the documentation and the code samples for how to use Firestore, and a lot of the code that we'll be seeing in a couple of minutes is essentially code that I wrote a year ago, 2 years ago, or maybe even longer ago. So this is all in the training set now, right? Because it's in our code labs, it's in our documentation. And so obviously Copilot is trained on that, which is both good and bad because, well, the good part is if people like myself, we do a good job and we create good code samples that are out there in the documentation and on GitHub, then the models are trained on that, and also people can read the documentation and learn from it. So the training data is good, right? But, and here's the problem, the world moves on, right? So for example, for Firestore, there are multiple ways to map data from a Firestore document to your Swift structs. And all those different ways to do it work. They're correct, but there are older ones, or legacy ones, if you will, and modern ones. And you want to use the modern ones, right? And I've experienced time and time again, and we might even see it today, that Copilot often suggests stuff that is outdated. So you still have to understand what you want, right? And even here, where I wanted to implement this toggle read method, it suggested to basically duplicate the code that I've got here in the update function. And that is, probably not a great idea, right? So I'm in two minds. And also it, the usability aspect of it is sometimes, because it uses the accessibility API and it renders stuff on top of your window, it sometimes is clunky and breaks. So maybe let's see if I can produce that. So yeah, okay. So I think it suggested that, right? So do you see that? Oh yeah, you do. So I can grab the overlay with my mouse. I'm using Rectangle Pro, and I can move that around, right? So that is because it's an overlay. So now it's in the middle of nowhere, right? So that is, and it sometimes seems to be using a different font, right? So you can see that this seems to be a different font or font size, so it's not perfect. So hopefully there'll be a tighter integration, and I'm really looking forward to. The theme that I'm using is the IDX theme. So what I did is I went to IDX. IDX is Google's cloud-based IDE, which is based on VS Code. So I went to IDX, exported the theme, downloaded the JSON file, and then used a tool. I forgot what it was called, and converted this into a Xcode theme. If people are interested, let me know. We can make it available. Cool. Hi, Jacob, by the way. Great to see you here. Okay, so now we've got our in-memory artifact store, right? So let's try to use this. So I'm going to go to our artifact list screen, and we now need to replace this part here. So instead of using the artifact mock list, I want to use my in-memory artifact store, right? So this will probably not work because we don't want to listen to those artifacts here. Let's see if this works. So let me get a preview. While we're waiting, I can have a sip. Yeah, this didn't work. Oh, first of all, that is one of the reasons why it didn't work. Artifact, it's not initialized with anything. Oh, and do you see that, right? So this is another thing. So .samples, that is a smart decision or a smart suggestion, but it doesn't exist. And it doesn't exist, Xcode would probably be able to tell me what are meaningful code completions because it has direct access to my code base. Copilot in Xcode probably also has, but for some reason it suggests samples, which doesn't exist because what does exist is mock list, right? So that is what I want to use. Okay, so let's see if that works. It does. But I don't want to directly access the artifacts. I want to have access to the store. So we're going to change this slightly. So I'm just going to call this store and then remove this. And now this will no longer compile, and I will replace this, and we will be using store.artifacts. And now let me make a little bit more space. So now we need to replace a couple of calls here. So here I'm directly modifying this collection. So I should be calling my method that I implemented, store.remove, and we can pass the artifact, right? So we can remove that. The same here, store.toggle, and this is for flag, toggle flagged for artifact. We can remove that. There should be another call. This one, store.toggle red. I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, you still need to know what you do. No. Toggle red artifact. There you go. Okay. So let's see if this all still works. So we can toggle flagged, we can toggle red, we can remove this. Very nice. Cool. So, but it's probably not a good idea to instantiate this in my list screen here. So what we want to do is we want to pass this in from the very top of our application. So I'm going to go here into the root of my application, and I'm going to, let's do it here. And because I'm a lazy person, I'll just copy this. So take it from here, put it here. So I instantiate my artifact store over here, and then I want to pass it down using the environment. So, and again, this suggestion is not too bad, but instead of using add environment object, I'm going to use the environment modifier here, and then I'm going to just put the store in there. Okay, like that. And then I need to update this here. And I'm going to use add environment. And we want to get the in memory artifact store.self var store and comment this. So now we've got a problem. We cannot, the compiler doesn't find the $store thing. And that is because the add state attribute here says, well, or property wrapper, sorry, the property wrapper, add state property wrapper says, well, this is a piece of data that I'm making available to you, and you can bind to it. And we want to bind to it, or we wanted to bind to it because we made direct modifications to the artifact object on it. Not entirely sure we still need to do that, but let's see how we can fix that problem. So in order to make an add environment variable bindable, we need to go into our body and use the add bindable view modifier, sorry, property wrapper, and then bind to the store. And we can use the same name here. So it's So this basically shadows. All right, so what have we got here? Okay, no observable object of type in memory store found. Right, so this is something that you will run into a lot of times. And when I first saw it, I was like, what? You know, did I forget to inject this into the environment? And then I looked into my root application here and no, there it is. But let me copy this from here. We are in a preview here, right? So I need to add it to the preview as well. And of course, store is not available here. So we need to use the add previewable property wrapper to create our store. And now it is available. And once I refresh the preview, it is there and it works all right. Great. Cool. Let's see. People have questions. Oh yeah. So Mikaela says my code completion completely breaks when I have custom snippets. I don't use custom snippets a lot. Maybe I should, but yeah, I can't say. But good to know. And can you bind to an array in the list? Yes, you can. And I even wrote an article on my blog about it a while ago. So this is really nice. And you know, that's actually what we're doing here, right? So this is an array that we get and we can bind to it. So Jacob wants to know, will this be using Genkit on the backend? Yes, it will. So for those who don't know what Genkit is an AI integration framework. And I'll just give the 1 or 2 sentence elevator pitch. It allows you to write code on the backend, and it can be anywhere, right? So it doesn't even have to run on Firebase. You can run it in a just plain Next.js application, for example. You can host it on a server under your desk if you want, or on someone else's cloud. And so it does not have any runtime dependencies. It's an SDK. It's a framework that makes implementing AI features a lot easier. So for this application here, for example, one of the use cases where I'm going to use it is the chat feature. So I want to be able to chat with my application to ask it questions about all of the data that is in my application. And you can imagine that once I have a bunch of articles in there, or more than just a bunch of articles, it might not be feasible to download all of that data to do processing on the client. Let's imagine I store all of Antoine's articles and all of Matt's articles and all of Paul's articles. That might be, I don't know, thousands probably, and even more. So I don't want to download all of these down to my client in order to perform a Q&A query or something like that. I want to do this on the backend where I have direct access to the data, and data travel is faster. And Genkit will allow me to implement this, and I'll show how to use stuff like Firestore vector embeddings to perform a similarity search, and then also use that similarity search to find all the articles that match the user's query, and then we can do stuff on them and run a prompt to answer the user's questions on just the articles that are relevant to the user's question. So you can look forward to that, but we're not going to do that today, but in a future episode. All right, cool. So this is nice, but it's still just in memory. So we've got slightly less than half an hour left, so let's go and implement a Firebase store. And first of all, I'm going to create a new project for this. So live stream. Yeah, this is already taken. Let's see, what did I choose here? Okay, so let's use that. Did that work? Nope, it didn't. Okay, let me go in here. So this is the project I created for preparing, but I want to show you how to create a Firebase project from scratch, so you see the entire experience. So first I need to provide a project name. So this project name here can be a humanly readable name. I like to use names that I can remember and names that contain my name, but what's really relevant is the ID down here, and you can see that once I start changing the name up there, it will change it down there. So if I use a humanly readable name, you will see that it will automatically update the ID. But I'm the kind of person who uses IDs for the project name as well. So let's do that. So continue. I'm going to keep on analytics because I might be using it in the future for some of the features. So let's create this project, which might take a minute or a moment. And once we've done that, we need to connect the application. So I can already prepare this. And what we need is the bundle ID. So let me go and find the bundle ID. Here it is. I'm going to copy this. And here we go. Our project is provisioned. We can now go in. And the first thing that I want to do is add an app to get started. So this basically connects my application, my client application, to my Firebase project. So I'm going to provide my bundle ID here. I can provide a nickname if I want, or an app ID, but all of that is not required right now. I can always do this later. So the bundle ID is all I need to register this application. And now I get to download this Google service info.plist file, which contains information about my project. So it is here, and you can see that I've already downloaded a bunch. So this is something that might also happen to you. So I can now drop it into my project. And where should you put it, right? Should you put it here or there? Wherever. And the good thing is you can just drop it somewhere here where you can see that the entire project is highlighted like that. So that is the perfect location. Copy files to destination. And then in order to fix the number, I'll just click into the name, remove the number, and that should be it. Okay. So the next step is to add the Firebase SDK. So I'm going to go to package dependencies, paste the URL here, or I can just type in Firebase. And here is the SDK. I can leave the version specifier just like that. I want to use the most up-to-date version up to the next major version, which is fine. We release every couple of weeks. So it's definitely worthwhile updating your dependencies every now and then to benefit from the most recent version of the Firebase SDK. But you can also pin to a specific version if you absolutely want to make sure that you stay on a specific version. Okay. So, any moment now, we should be able to select which parts we want to use. Okay, so here are all the different parts of the SDK. Firebase Analytics, Firebase App Check, Firebase Database, which is the real-time database, but we want to use Firestore. So I'm going to select Firestore. I'm going to add it to the Sophia target, add package, and now it will resolve the packages and all the dependencies. And with that, we're almost good to go. Let's see what the next step is in this wizard. So now we need to initialize Firebase. So there are two ways to do it. You could use this UI application delegate method here, which is important if you're using cloud messaging. But there's also an easier way, and I'm going to show you the easy way. So we can just go into our app struct and then go into the, firstly, import Firebase. And then we go here, Firebase app.configure, and that is it, right? And if you compare that to the code you have to write here, you know, the important piece is still this one here. And this app delegate is only just there because if you don't use that, you don't get like a specific app delegate or like an explicit app delegate. There is an implicit one, and that is not, you know, Firebase can't find that when it's trying to swizzle the app delegate. So if you want to know what swizzling is, I recommend reading up on that on the NS Hipster blog. Basically, it means swapping out an implementation of a function. And the reason why we're doing that in Firebase is that this makes it easier to configure Firebase for stuff like Firebase Cloud Messaging. But it also has a couple of downsides. Go on Stack Overflow to see why. So maybe this is something that we need to fix in the future. Okay, so this should work. So once I run this, and let's see what's left here. Okay, so that's all good. Let's see, build succeeded. Oh, I see we've got Anna on the stream. Hey, Anna. I'm so sorry. Well, no cappuccino after 11, right? So this is why I have tea. And also, you will be shocked. So I made this tea with Yorkshire tea bags. So the good thing about that is it brews in a very short amount of time. So this brews in less than 2 minutes. Ollie will be shocked. Anyways, so here's the application, and we're still not connecting to Firebase or to Firestore, but it compiles, so that is good news. So now the next step is we want to implement our Firebase store, and what I'm going to do is let's go here, and I'm a lazy person. We'll just paste this here, and then I'm going to call it Firebase Artifact Store. Oh, here's a question for you all. How would you name this? Would you name this Firebase Artifact Store or the other way around, like Artifact Firebase Store? What do you prefer? I don't know. I always default to Firebase Artifact Store, but I've seen a colleague doing it the other way around. So I'm curious what you people think. Okay, so it doesn't conform. Sure. So let's conform to the protocol. and it has no initializers. So we'll just do that again. And then the first thing that we want to do is we want to get hold of Firestore. And first thing to do is import Firebase Firestore. You no longer have to import Firebase Firestore Swift. That is a change that we made a couple of releases ago to make it easier for all of us. And let's get, it's reading my mind. So let's get an instance. Let's get a handle to Firestore. So that is the first thing. And I'm also going to define a constant for our collection name. Well, collection name, maybe like that. So this is better. So let's go. Let me show you how this looks like in the prepared project. So here in my database instance, I've got a collection of artifacts and I've got a bunch of documents here. And each document contains an artifact, right? So this is the name of the collection that we want to use. Okay, so artifacts. Now let's implement adding an artifact. So db.collection collection name. So we're getting a reference to the collection, and then we want to add a document. And now you can see that Copilot suggests something that I wouldn't do. It tries to turn the artifact into a dictionary. So first of all, this method does not exist. ToDict is not something that exists on the artifact. So I would have to implement turning the artifact into a dictionary. And you know, that is definitely possible, but the problem is, if we look at the artifact, it has a bunch of attributes here, and I would have to write a function to turn all of those, or take all of those attributes, put them into a dictionary, and then return them. So firstly, that is a lot of typing. And secondly, and that is the bigger problem, if I add a new attribute, I need to keep in mind to also update my ToDict method. And that is something that I will probably forget. I know myself, so it would be good to have something that is better than that, right? So let's look at the documentation. So Firestore, or no, let's try a thing. Firebase.com. Right. So build, go to build. No, go to Firestore. Where is Firestore? There we go. Okay, view the docs. Right. So let's go to read data. And then I'm going to use this chat feature. And now let's see. How can I map Firestore documents to Swift structs? Let's see if we get a good answer or an answer that we need to improve. Not sure why it's taking so long. Here we go. Okay, so it's trying to answer that based on this this page. Well, not sure. Maybe we need to, let's find the page where it talks about this. Search, manage indexes, paginate, Maybe here. Okay, so this article is based on a blog post I wrote a while ago. So let's try this again here. waiting. Compiling. Okay. Okay, conform your struct to Codable. There you go. So let's see, can I get a larger version of this? Yes, I can. So, oh. So this is not looking nice. But yeah, basically, all right, let's shrink this again. So what we want to do is we want to use Codable. So let's go back into the IDE and implement this. So instead of using add document data, we will use this overload here, add document from. And you can see that it also expects an encoder or a completion block. These are optional, but what we will provide here is an encodable. And let's just pass in this artifact here. So, okay. And the problem is it does not conform to encodable, right? So, and that is true because we haven't told it that it is encodable. So we're going to do that. Extension, artifact, Codable, and that is it. And now we need to wrap this in a try block. Do catch, and print the error. Nice. So that is how easy it is to add a document to Firestore. Let's, okay, so this is good. In the interest of time, another thing that we need to make this useful is a real-time listener. So you might have heard that Firestore has real-time capabilities. So what we want to do is we want to set up a real-time snapshot listener, which listens to the collection in our Firestore instance. So every time a change is made to that collection, we get the updated data. And to do that, I'm going to write a function, enable, not persistence, but enable live sync. You can really call it what you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a snapshot listener, right? So it's GitHub Copilot was smart enough to understand that we want to listen to this collection here. It adds a snapshot listener, and in this closure here, we will now iterate over all the documents that are in the query snapshot. Okay, this looks good. All right, keep going. No? Okay, let's do it differently then. Okay, so what I want to do, if let query snapshot is query snapshot, I'm going to iterate over the articles that are in the query snapshot. And then I'm going to try to map them to a to the result. So, and here again, this document.data thing. So if you look into the code completion here, you can see all sorts of things that you can retrieve. You could use .data, and what you get is this dictionary here, right? So all the fields that are in a Firestore documents, they're basically a mapping between the attribute name and the field value, so a dictionary. But I don't want to manually map the dictionary. I want to use the Codable protocol, and this is why I can use this data as overload here. And as you can see in the implementation, it will use a decoder, the Firestore decoder, to do the mapping for me. Okay, so this is nice. I should do some bookkeeping and hold on to my snapshot listener. So listener registration, and then I will say listener equals that, and then in the I will write an initializer, and in the initializer I will enable live sync, and in the deinitializer I will remove the listener, like like this. Okay. Right. So let's see. Does it compile? It does. Okay. So now we've got our shiny Firebase artifact store, but we're still using the memory store, right? So let's replace this here. So we're going to instantiate the Firebase artifact store here. And now we should get a compile error here. What? Well, all right, so let's have a look. So it did not break at compile time, which exposes one of the problems with the environment. All right, there you go. Oh no, that's a different error. Right, so failed to get Firebase app instance. Please call Firebase app.configure before using Firestore. Right, so let's try to figure out what the problem is. So this is the problem. This will be initialized before the initializer runs. So what we need to do is tell it that we will be instantiating a Firebase Firestore instance, and then do it here. Okay, so let's run this. And, oh, interesting. Let's try it again. And here we go. And okay, so this is still not working. Why? Okay. Oh, sure. Okay. I should actually call configure before I use Firestore. All right, so this is the error I was looking for. So it says no observable object of type in-memory artifact store found. A view environment object for in-memory artifact store might be missing as an ancestor of this view. So when you see that, you might be wondering, oh, what is broken? The problem is that we registered this Firebase artifact store, this one here, and put it into the environment. But here we're pulling out an in-memory artifact store. So let me replace that as well. And now when we run this, it should work. Hey Noe, thanks for joining. All right, and now it's empty. Why? Right? Why is it empty? So did it not connect? No, there is more, right? So let's look at the console. So the console says permission denied, Cloud Firestore API has not been used in this project before, or it's disabled. Enable it by visiting, and then we see this URL here. So can I click the URL? Probably not. I'll just copy it, and then I'll go here. Oh, it wants me to go to the Cloud Console. Well, no, let's not do that. So let's go into our project. So this one here. And if I go into Firestore database, you will see that there is no database, right? So create a database. I'll use the default database. I'll choose NAM5 as a location, and then I'll use test mode so that everybody can write and read from the database. Please don't do that in production. This is something that we will talk about in the next live stream, how to secure your database. For now, it's okay. And here we go. Right, so let me go back to Xcode and run this again. And then hopefully that error message should be gone. But we still need to put some data in there, right? Cool. So, okay, so it still says this is missing. So it might take a moment for it to provision completely. In the meantime, what we need to do is we need to put some data into our database. And there is an easy way to achieve this because we have everything in place already. So once we have our Firebase artifact store, we can iterate over our mock data and put that into the store, right? So here I get the mock lists. I add it to the store. Let's only do this once, but for now, hopefully this will work. Oh, people are chatting among themselves. That's great. Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Jacob. So here we are. So this is the data. And now let me disable this. Let's double check. Okay, so we did not fake this, right? So the data should now be in the database. Let's take a look at that. Let me refresh. And here we go. So here are our records. So now in a live presentation, people would be able to cheer. So that is something that I need to look into. I think you can implement live cheering on a live stream. Okay, so and final thing before I let you go, let's demonstrate the live synchronization feature. So I'm going to show those two windows side by side, and then let's find this one here. All right, so learn how to replicate the App Store hero animation with SwiftUI's new navigation transition. So I will make a change in the database here, and you will hopefully be able to see that change over there because we're listening live to that. So I'm just going to insert a couple of exclamation marks, and there you go. We had a live update here, and I can revert that, and boom, there you go. All right. So with only 4 minutes over, we managed to implement an in-memory implementation for our data store. We also implemented a Firestore implementation for that. There are still a couple of methods missing. I'm not going to implement these now. We can do that next time. If you have any other questions, it's probably best to add them into the comments under this video. I will go through and answer as many of them as possible. Also, if you have any suggestions for what I should look into next, let me know. I think next time we will finish implementing those methods here and then look at probably making this look better, right? Because at the moment, this is not readable at all. So this is definitely something that we need to fix. Okay, so let me switch my camera so I'm visible again like that. And let's see. I think I want to go to this mode here and that. Yes, exactly. Great. So I will be in Amsterdam next week. So if you are at Do iOS as well, leave me a message in the chat or hit me up next week, and I will actually give a long form talk I guess 40 minutes or something like that, about how I built this application. It's going to walk through the entire process of building this application, building the AI parts in it. It will have a couple of slides and demos about Genkit and how that works. I will explain how vector embeddings work, how you can store them on Firestore, how you can use them to perform semantic search. And we will also look into how to use Siri or how to hook this app to Siri, right? To the new Siri. So it's going to be fun. If you're there, let me know. No, I would love to take you to Amsterdam. Mate, you just have to come over. Right, and because I'm in Amsterdam next week, I won't be able to do the live stream in the beginning of the week, but I will do it at the end of the week on Friday. So a little bit earlier because, let's be honest, all of us would probably rather enjoy the weekend, and I want to enjoy the weekend as well, but I also want to do the live stream. So come join me at 18 o'clock Central European time, and hopefully I did the math correct. It'll be 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, or lunchtime Eastern time, and 17 o'clock Universal, well, UTC, whatever that means. Thinking on a live stream is very, very hard. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for asking all your questions. Thanks for interacting on the chat. I really enjoyed this. If you've got any more questions, leave them in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you again next week. Thanks for dialing in. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.